nice. You can find a nice stopping place in your book so that you can track up front. You probably want to get there in the next like 5 seconds or something. Welcome back, guys. Thank you for being present. To continue more, I guess we could call it like wisdom lectures. Because interestingly enough, whether you recognize it or not, and it's so funny because it's like now I'm just thinking like random. I'm talking like randomly off the top of my head, but this idea that like whenever you like developing a skill and stuff like that, while you're in the process of developing skills, you don't see your own development. You can only see your development, like if you compare it from the beginning to the end, right? So it's really interesting. Like, so to some extent, I'm saying like, thank you for being present, because whether you guys recognize it or not, like something's developing with you. Like what it is, who knows? Well, I kind of know. It's basically like the seeds of wisdom, but the question is, do you guys recognize it, right? Do you recognize it every day, every second, every minute, and every single time that you guys take opportunity to sit here and listen? To some extent, you grow wiser, right? Who knows? It depends on how you're processing it. So, I'm going to start off with this statement, right? And like we talk about Buddhism like almost all the time, but we say like Buddhism is a religion that emphasizes actual practice. It's an interesting statement because a lot of the times, a lot of other religions, and I don't want to like spend this time talking about like other religions, but the idea is that like if you follow this religion, you have to put in the practice because no amount of like, let's just say like praying is going to save you. It's like your conduct, your behavior, your everything that actually determines like your path in life, right? And so it's interesting because when we think about Buddhism, we think about a lot of these like rituals and ceremonies and stuff like that. And the book that I'm reading says this. It says like rituals and elaborate ceremonies actually have no ethical or spiritual values. That's fascinating. Like, because I don't know to what extent do the people around here in this temple or like even like, I don't know, like people in your life like believe in this idea that like all these rituals and ceremonies, they don't have any actual spiritual value. And here's an interesting idea that like maybe I can bring your attention to. And that's this idea that, do you guys know that you're Buddhist? Wait, that's a weird question, right? You're sitting in a Buddhist temple. You guys are like Vietnamese, your mom makes you show up to temple. But my question is, do you guys know that you're Buddhist? That's an interesting thought experiment. And here's the next thing. Is calling yourself a Buddhist enough? If you call yourself a Buddhist, is it enough? If I called you guys Buddhists, is it enough? And it turns out, if you guys are actually thinking deeply, it's not, right? So the question becomes, what makes a good Buddhist? And that's actually the like title / point of today's lecture, right? So there's like 8 points I have on like what makes like somebody who shows up a good Buddhist. And I thought that was an interesting lecture because half the time I'm lecturing about like deeply, slightly, I don't know, to some extent like deeply profound stuff to you guys, and then I don't know if it like escapes your head or not, but I just want to like always come back to like what makes you guys, like what's the purpose for being here, right? I always want to trace it back to there. So the first idea of like what makes a good Buddhist is that the person has to hold the triple gem to the highest esteem. You guys remember the triple gem? Maybe, maybe not. I've definitely had a lecture on the triple gem before, but the triple gem refers to 3 things, right? First, the Buddha. Second, the Dharma, and the Dharma is all the teachings of the Buddha. And the third is the Sangha, which is the disciples that teach what the Buddha has taught, right? And so basically they are the monks and anybody who's like spreading just the knowledge about Buddhism. So what makes you a good Buddhist? The first point is that like you hold these three things, these gems, to the highest esteem. It's basically the binding force that brings you guys here. It could be, and I don't know if like you guys are even thinking like, oh, I'm here because my mom is here, or because my mom makes me come here. You know, I don't know if that thought has ever crossed your mind. But I don't want to actually make assumptions. Like I want to actually understand like what you guys are seeing. So that's something interesting. So first, you have to understand that like these three things, like who the Buddha is and what he taught, and the people who like try to like maintain these ideas, they're of extreme importance. They are the reason why we come to temple to begin with. Okay, so that's the first understanding of what makes you a good Buddhist. And I like the second point about what makes a good Buddhist. They say this: faith is good, but it's not enough. It says a good Buddhist tries to understand the Buddhist teaching and Buddhist practice. He or she never ceases to acquire knowledge on the religion, because sound knowledge will strengthen one's faith and devotion. Now, by very definition, because you guys are present right now, that's actually one of the reasons why you guys are good Buddhists, right? But I wonder if being present right now is good enough. My question is, are you guys actually like seeking to acquire more and more knowledge of Buddhism and the practices? Because if you sit here passively, and maybe you listen, maybe you don't, are you a good Buddhist? And you know, the idea of good is subjective too, but it's like, are you guys being, I don't want to say devout, I want to say, are you guys following what the path as it was intended to be followed, okay? Third point is that it says a good Buddhist endeavors to apply the teachings to his or her daily life. Remember my opening? My opening said that Buddhism is a religion that emphasizes actual practice. And in the previous lecture, I've spoken about like the Eightfold Path. Now keep in mind, like just to summarize like what the Buddha said. Like he said, at the beginning, he said like, listen, all of life is suffering, but there's a way to end the suffering. And the pathway to end the suffering is by following the Eightfold Path. And if you remember the Eightfold Path, it's just all the things that you should be doing right. Right thinking, right action, right speech, right livelihood, right concentration, right meditation. And it comes down to like 8 things that you should be doing. The question is, what makes a good Buddhist? Well, it's a person who's actually following the Eightfold Path. Like, why else would the Buddha describe like all these like this pathway to end suffering? What's the point if you're not going to follow it to begin with, right? It's a religion of practice. It's not just a thinking religion. You can't just think about Buddhism and hope that one day you like find the achieve the goal, whatever your goal is, right? It's not merely that. Finally, well, not finally. Number 4, we're halfway there of what makes a good Buddhist. I like this because it's applicable to you guys as kids. It says, a good Buddhist, ready, respects their parents, is obedient and courteous, and never argues back in an insolent manner. That is not to say, don't argue back, because I think you should argue back. But you have to find a way to argue back that's respectful, right? It's so funny, it's so interesting. It's like, why is this like number 4? Why is this number 4? Like, why is respecting your parents part of like the list of like 8 things that you have to be doing to be considered a good Buddhist? Why is respecting your parents like at number 4? I mean, A, they're the reason why you're here to begin with, right? It's kind of obvious. But B, to what extent do you guys understand and see the sacrifice that they are doing to have you here, to be fully fed, to be fully clothed, to get the education that you're getting, to, I don't know, to be on your pathway to success, right? Like how often do we reflect on it? Because you know, half the time, I remember when I was young and in middle school, and like it was like 6:30 or 7 a.m. and my father would pull my leg to wake me up. You know, like it was my alarm clock, but it was like the worst way to be woken up, right? Like, yank me. And I'd be like, oh, why are you, like, you know, why couldn't you like, just gently pull me or like wake me up? But I'm sure like when the alarm goes off and your mom is like nagging you, like, get up, blah, 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 you're gonna be late for school and stuff like that. In that very moment, you're not actually very grateful, but it's like, imagine not having that. Imagine the absence of it. Where would you be? Where would you be without your parents today? Right? Where are the kids who don't have parents today? Where are they? Right? And so I actually really enjoy this. And ultimately, it's like, this was like the intention of like having me lecture you guys, like you know, children or like students like you guys, like what the monk told me initially was, oh, just tell them about being good to their parents, and that's it. That's like the extent of your lecture. But of course, I've obviously expanded this, but I like how it's like we're coming full circle. And it's just like, respect is because you're returning, for their sacrifice and for their, I guess, yeah, for their like love and sacrifice, you return it with respect, right? Because you don't make money, so you can't really pay your parents. So think carefully about that. Number 5 is my favorite, because it's something that you guys are not doing as an audience member. Here it is. What does it mean to be a good Buddhist? A good Buddhist is a free thinker and does not believe things just because they are told to them. He applies reasoning power and experiments. Why do I refer to you guys? Because I always ask for questions. Okay, I always ask for questions, and A, none of you guys ever have questions. But B, and it's kind of funny, but B, I really, really like this. Because the point of this lecture, and the point that it's like in English anyway, is so that you guys can listen, process, and then question. Like, I want you guys to develop that spirit within you to begin to question, like, and ask, like, why? Why does it have to be this way? Right? Because if you just sit there and passively and you don't actually challenge it, then you're just accepting it. And I actually dislike this idea, like certain religions, you can't question. And I dislike that a lot. Or certain religions say this, and you've heard it before. If you don't believe in our religion, you're going to that place. It's H-E-L-L. Right? Have you heard of that? Nod? Yeah. So, those types of religions don't invite questioning. But here, part of being a good Buddhist says this. It's like, no, you have to be a free thinker. You have to actually, so whatever I'm telling you guys, you need to say, wait a minute, he's telling us this. Is he right? Learn to challenge that. Because actually that's a very valuable skill in society that a lot of people don't have. When you grow older and you go to the workplace, you'll realize a lot of people just follow orders, right? They don't know how to challenge authority. Like challenge authority in a respectful manner, but also to like think critically on their own. And that's what I want ultimately for you guys to do. So if anything, like at the end of every lecture and moving forward, push yourself to ask, is he even right? Is the stuff that I'm telling you even correct? And challenge me, right? Challenge me to be better. But in doing so, you elevate your ability, you elevate yourself, your mind, your mental capacity. And then this is how you become a good Buddhist. So that's what I really like. Yeah, and actually, did you know that the second that you challenge religion or whatever that you follow, there's only 2 possible results that can happen. The first is that you lose faith, because the things doesn't add up, like the math doesn't add up, and it doesn't make sense. Or the second thing is that your faith gets strengthened, right? So it's actually 2 interesting effects. Like you could either lose faith because you realize none of this actually is true, or your faith is strengthened and you say, oh my gosh, all of this is true. Yeah, so it's something interesting for you to think about. Okay, number 6. We're almost there. There's only 8 points right here. So number 6. A good Buddhist is broad-minded in matters like religious beliefs, tradition, practices, and social values. You understand that people are different, and so their beliefs, practices, and so are their beliefs, practices, and values. Okay, what's this saying? This is literally saying this, that if you're going to be a good Buddhist, you shouldn't judge other people. You shouldn't judge anything. Like, people have different values, they have different perceptions about reality. Let them be who they want to be. And that's what I like about this religion, to some extent, or these teachings, because it's saying this: you don't have to believe. It's you have to arrive at believing yourself. There's no one forcing you to believe in Buddhism. And if you ever feel like oppressed, like somebody's like pushing you to believe, that's part of what the previous point is about being a good Buddhist. Push back. Like, no. Like, believe because you believe. Right? Or like follow Buddhism because you want to follow Buddhism. If you want to follow any other religion, feel free. But I really like Buddhism because it doesn't try to convert you. It's like I opened in my statement, Buddhism is a religion that emphasizes actual practice. So you can't force people to live the right life. It's only people can arrive at the conclusion themselves to live the right life, right? And so, yeah, and ultimately the conclusion is that like certain religions demand that you listen to them. Buddhism is not quite like that. It says like, here's what we believe. Here's an invitation for you to come and understand. That's it, right? Cool. So that's number 6. On to number 7. A good Buddhist is honest, morally uncorruptible, and has strong willpower. And he takes responsibility for his actions while trying to avoid, delights in doing good and tries to avoid as much evil as possible. This goes without saying, right? Did you guys know, well, I'm not going to say, well, I can't. I can only think of one example. But how many examples in history have there been of just like violent interactions between like religions? But you rarely, I don't know if you guys even know it, of any times when there's been conflict within the Buddhist circles. Rarely. Almost rarely. And the question is, why is that? Well, like the emphasis in Buddhism, and especially if you're a good Buddhist, is that you're honest. And you like try to avoid doing evil things, and you take like delight in doing good. But why is that idea so strongly enforced in Buddhism? Because of a previous idea in Buddhism, which is karma, right? Like, if everything that you do has a consequence, whether it's now or later, of course you're gonna choose to do good. Like, if you like decide to like, let's just say like steal people's stuff, or do other bad things, like, it's to some extent unfair if you believe that nothing's going to happen to those people. I don't know. This is something that I want you guys to question, right? I want you guys to really question karma. Like, do you really believe in it or not? Because it's a deep part of Buddhism. But it's also like a driving reason why so many Buddhists, at least in my opinion, are so like honest. And it's like part of the like Eightfold Path that the Buddhists the Buddha laid out, right? And I'll connect this to an example that you guys know. Harry Potter. Have you guys read the book? No? Oh my gosh, lame. No, I'm just kidding. I only read the first 2 books. Have you guys seen the movie? No? Only the first one? I just remember Dumbledore, the professor of Harry Potter, saying one thing, which is, there's gonna come a time when Harry Potter has a decision to make, to decide between the easy choice and the right choice. And it's very interesting because those two are almost never the same choice, right? There's always an easy choice and a right choice. And what do I refer to? I'm talking about, let's just say, and there's always like this question that you should always think about. Imagine if you're like family, like let's just say you have a family, right? You're married and you have a family, you have a couple kids, and they're starving to death. They always have this moral question. Think about this. Go home and think about this. would you rob a store to feed your starving family? It's a very interesting question. I don't know if you guys have developed that sense of morality yet to make a decision, right? Because it's very hard. On the one hand, you have a starving family, like your brothers and sisters. On the other hand, would you steal, right? Like, would you steal to help them out? Or would you not steal because you know that stealing to some extent is wrong? Like, that's something fascinating to think about. But the number 7, the number 7 point about what makes a good Buddhist says, like, you know, if you are honest and you know that you take responsibility for your own actions, you know about karma, you know that if you do something bad now, it's going to come and bite you in the future. I mean, to me, that's something that I want to leave up to you to determine. I'm not going to be here to say, like, you know, hey, don't do bad things because it's bad. I want you guys to arrive at that conclusion yourself, and that's part of like this Buddhist tradition of like questioning things. Okay. Okay. And here's the last thing, and it connects back to the first statement I said. Okay. The last thing about what makes a good Buddhist: be diligent, hardworking, duty conscious, and altruistic. So altruistic means like you're nice to people, you donate, and you do your volunteer work and stuff like that. And I really like the whole be diligent part, because keep in mind what I opened up with. I said Buddhism is a religion that emphasizes actual practice, right? And the last statement of what makes a good Buddhist is saying you have to work hard. In any endeavor in life, you have to work hard. And so I thought to myself, what person? Well, first, what Buddhist? Have you guys ever heard of a lazy monk before? I wonder. Because my question is this: has any lazy monk have ever achieved like enlightenment? Right? That's it. If you ask that question, you're like, wait a minute, I don't think so. Well, let me ask you this question: what person do you know that's like extremely lazy but has like achieved like great fame for their intellect or famous for doing stuff? The answer is no one, because the lazy people never make it anywhere in life. And so it's so funny that this is like a point of emphasis on like what makes you a good Buddhist. Just being diligent, like being hardworking. Because you're not going to achieve whatever level of success or level of understanding that you achieve within this Buddhism tradition and these teachings. You will never achieve it by sitting there, staring into space. Right? I mean, maybe, you know, you have to put in the hard work. Even when it comes to like meditation and stuff like that. Like, people want like, and eventually we'll talk about like clarity of mind and stuff like that, but people want to like, people think like meditation is like going to sleep or something. Like you sit there, your eyes are closed, and you're going to sleep. When it's quite actually the opposite. Your mind, you know how much of a battle it is to try to quiet your mind? Because the second you guys close your eyes, like thoughts are popping up here and there. Like, and you can't sit there for like 60 seconds without at least one thought popping in your head. So your brain is actually extremely alert during meditation. But it requires like a lot of hard work to get to that state where you can actually, you're like zen, like you're peaceful and stuff like that, right? But people think, oh, it's time to meditate, time to close my eyes and fall asleep. Like, no, that's laziness. That's not real meditation, right? And so, yeah. So those are my like 8 points on what makes a good Buddhist. Hopefully you absorbed something or other, but the main piece that I want you to absorb is to start questioning, start challenging stuff that I'm saying. Because you can only get better from there. The second, and part of the challenging thing is it's being diligent. Like being diligent in your, like taking ownership of your religion. If you're gonna be here every Sunday, you might as well gain something from it. Because if you sit here every Sunday and you're like highly resistant, then 5 years from now, guess what? You'll walk out of this temple not knowing a single thing. But imagine the difference. 5 years from now, you sit here every single Sunday and you begin to question and begin to dig deeper and like try to understand a little bit more. And it's funny because I see there's another student slash child or whatever, you guys, who clearly she speaks English. I see her from time to time on like major holidays and stuff, but she doesn't actually show up. And so I wonder where is she in her development? You know, where is she in terms of her understanding of Buddhism? And so, yeah, that's the point of this lecture. So without any, yes, question?
Can you elaborate more on what is the correct way of donation to what you think so they can understand next time?
Donation?
Like, donation or whatever like the last part you said, the the way you correct donation.
Oh, altruism. Oh, okay. I think,
maybe you're gonna be long, so maybe next time you...
Yeah, well, I mean, altruism, it's like being selfless. So, like, that's the definition of altruism. It's the opposite of being selfish, right? Being selfish is somebody who hoards. Like, let's just say, like, you make money and stuff like that. And then when you start making money, and you're saying, like, no, I'm gonna keep all $100. That means I don't want to share. I don't want to contribute to the community. Like, there's lots of ways for you to be altruistic, right? Especially within this temple community. I've seen you guys doing it, so it's not like you guys don't do it. But certain ways that like adults do it, it's like they donate money to the temple, they like bring flowers, they bring fruits, and guess where these flowers and fruits go? They go back to the people in the temple, right? You know, you guys ever notice like, it's a weird thing, but like the fact that this temple like cooks food and it's all free, can you imagine if you got charged for every meal or every single piece of bread that you ate here? It's crazy, right? But it like, notice, hopefully it comes to your awareness, this level of like altruism, it's throughout this temple. Do you notice like, like you know, the amount of services that they provide that's actually free? Because certain temples, they actually charge money, even for prayers and stuff, which is like mind-blowing, right? But like things that you guys can do as kids, volunteer your time, even, yeah, volunteer your time, like help out, I don't know, with washing dishes or helping with whatever else that people need, whatever, you know, like even like cleaning up the little cushions that you guys sit on at the end of the lecture or something like that. That's just like helping out, and so, was that what you were intending?
But sometimes I have no time, you know, to help out, and you know, there are other ways to do donation things like that instead of money to whatever. I don't know. Maybe explain to your little kids.
Explain to little kids how they can help donate money. What if they don't make any money? Well, okay.
No, they don't need to like donate money or anything. Like you say that after that you can help in washing dishes, but some other people they have to go home, you know, study, do their chores.
Right.
And doing chores is also like a way of donation, you know.
Exactly. If you can't donate time, you donate money. No. If you can't donate money, you donate time. That's what it is, right? And it's like, it goes back to like the point number 4. Like, if you, like, number 4, what was point number 4? Be respectful to your parents, right? So if they ask you to do chores and stuff like that, just think about like, oh my gosh, yes, it's an opportunity to get merits and to like actually do good. Like, let me do it. Because I know the second people say, throw out the garbage, wash the dishes, and do all these, clean the house, you're like, ugh, and you start making those noises. But if you change your mindset and you say, yes, this is an opportunity to actually become altruistic, be even more altruistic, right? That's the point. Yeah, and also like, if you ever see like those people in school who have like no friends or no one to sit next to and stuff like that, say hi to them once in a while, make them better, you know, make them smile. That's a form of altruism as well, you know. Like, random acts of kindness. Like, push yourself to do more of that, because then you make the world a better place, right? As opposed to just sitting there and being passive. To some extent, that's even worse, you know. So, yeah. Okay, that's it. That's the end of my lecture. Thank you.